Hey everyone, Jamie here from TechnicalCafe.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about for loops in PHP and how we can go about using them to make repetitive tasks in programming a little bit easier. So a for loop is a type of repetitive or iterative statement that comes in handy when you know the exact number of times you're going to want to do something. So that can mean, printing some numbers to a screen, or going into a database and pulling out information and then parsing it, or parsing something from a file, etc., etc. So in today's example, we're going to take the numbers 0 to 10 and print them to the screen, and we're going to show you how a for loop can make that much easier than just writing a bunch of echo statements. So here's our index.php file, which is empty except for some PHP tags. And what we're going to do is go ahead and show you the standard echoing out one after another the numbers. So we're going to say echo 0, echoing out a line break for some spacing. We're going to echo 1. We're going to echo out another line break to add some spacing. And then we're going to echo the number 2, and we can just keep going all the way to 10, but you get the point. So let's jump back over here to Chrome, and you'll notice that we have 0, 1, and 2. If we jump back over here to our text editor, in order to print these 3 numbers, we actually had to type in 5 lines of code. And even if we were to move these line break statements to the lines that are echoing out the number itself, we'd still have to type in 11 lines of code to get the numbers 0 to 10. And this, if you're doing something that's a little bit more involved than writing numbers, can be horribly inefficient. So this is where a for loop comes in, makes it a little bit easier, and reduces the amount of time that you have to write code, and makes your program run a little bit better as well. So in order to use a for loop, what we're going to do is say for, and then we're going to have a parameter list here, and we're going to have a loop body that follows that. And within our parameter list here, we're going to have 3 statements or 3 conditions that are going to be used to make this for loop work. So the first is going to be your initialization statement. And what this is going to do is basically tell the loop where to start. Oftentimes it'll be 0, but you can start it wherever you want. And then following that is going to be your end statement or ending condition. So for example, if you wanted to run from 0 to 10, in our case, that's basically saying start at 0, stop at 10. And then how do we know what the next number is going to be in this situation? We're going to use an iteration statement. And what this is basically saying is what's going to happen after each pass or iteration through the loop. In many cases, you're going to be adding or subtracting 1, though you can do other things as well. So let's take a look at what this looks like in our case here. What we're going to want to do is start at 0, because we want to write 0 to 10 to the screen. So we're going to create a variable called I and set that equal to 0. And then following that, what we're going to want to do is stop this loop when I gets to 10. So we're going to say when I is less than or equal to 10, we're going to stop the loop from running. And then after each pass through the loop, we're going to add 1 to this starting number here. So we're going to say I plus plus. And this is basically a fancy way of saying I equals I plus I, or I plus 1 rather. So let's just recap this real quick. We're starting at 0. We're going to end when I is less than or equal to 10. And then we're going to add 1 each time. And the reason that we have less than or equal to 10 is because if we were to remove this less than and just say when I equals 10, the loop's going to think that I is equal to 10 already, and it's just going to create an infinite loop, and you're not going to want that. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is go ahead and say echo for each pass of the loop. We're going to print out the number I. So if in theory this works, we're going to start at 0, that's going to get printed, then we're going to add 1, then we're going to have 1 up here. That's going to get printed. We're going to add 1, and what we're going to do is keep doing that until we hit 10. So let's save this, jump over here to Google Chrome, and if we refresh, you'll notice that we get 0 through 10. What we're going to want to do, though, to make this a little bit more readable is add in some line breaks. So we can go ahead and just do that. So we can just echo out a line break, or you could just add it in up here if you wanted to make things a little bit more condensed. But let's just save this, jump back over to Chrome. And if we refresh, you'll notice that we have 0 to 10. And one thing to note too is that if you're starting at 0, you're going to have actually 11 numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is actually the 10th number, and then 10 is the 11th number. Something to just keep in mind. So if you wanted to start at 1, you could do that to get the numbers 1 to 10. So if we save this, jump over here and refresh, you only have 10 iterations. So if you wanted to get 10 numbers, you'd have to stop at 9. Unless you started at 1. A little confusing, but once you do this a few times, you'll get the hang of it. So what we can also do with a for loop is count backwards. So let's delete this and create a new for loop. So let's say for I equals 10, we're going to start at 10, and we're going to keep this loop going until I is less than, or is actually greater than or equal to 0. And then what we're going to do after each iteration of the loop is just say I minus minus. And then we're going to open up the body of the loop, and we're going to echo out I, and then we'll concatenate on a line break. So just to recap this, what we're going to do is start at 10, and we're going to keep this loop going until I hits 0. And what we're going to do after each pass through the loop is subtract 1 from this initialization condition of 10. So we'll get 10, and then we'll print 10, we'll subtract 1, get 9, 8, 7, 6, etc., etc. So let's save this, jump over here to Chrome, and take a look at what it actually looks like. And you'll notice we get 10 to 0. If you wanted to exclude 0, just like we did previously, what you can do is just say less than or equal to 1. We can save this, jump over here, and you'll notice that we get, mustn't have saved. Yep, didn't save. We'll get from 10, line 3 has an error. Okay, I see what happens there. We added an S by accident. So if we jump back over here to Chrome and we start out, you'll notice that we get from 10 to 1. Another thing to just keep in mind is that this is 10 numbers. If you wanted to add the 0 in, it'd be 11. But oftentimes we start with 0 in computer programming, so it's just something to keep in mind. So this is basically how you would go about using a for loop. It's pretty simple, and once you get into the swing of heavy-duty programming, what you could actually do is include a variable in here. So if you knew, for example, you were parsing a database that gets a value from a function, and you wanted to get the number of things in the database, for example, you could just include a variable there, things like that. So thank you for watching. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments section below, and have a great day.